What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to come with you with my playoff predictions. Now, I know this is a bit early, sensing we're 5 months away from football, but you can never be too early getting into these things. First, I will talk about the seeding, then I will be talking about all the matchups that will be going on, and not too much of a shocker, the number 1 seed for the AFC is going to be the defending champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. And for the NFC side of things, it's going to be the 49ers. Now, number 2, I have an interesting spot here. After the Stephon Diggs trade they just made, I'm going to have to put the Houston Texans and C.J. Stroud in this high-powered offense with DeMeco Ryans and Will Anderson heading in on defense at the 2 seed for the AFC side of things. And for the NFC, it's kind of the same as last year, but I'm going to have the Lions. They're a very good team with Dan Campbell, and I think Dan Campbell has been waiting all year since his season ended to go get revenge on the 49ers. Next up, for the AFC 3 seed, I'm going to have the Cleveland Browns. If they had Nick Chubb, you could argue they could have made the Super Bowl, or they could have made a pretty big push because that's probably the best running back in the National Football League going down that early. And them having their quarterback get hurt, just relying on that defense. I know the defense didn't end up good in that playoff game, but they still have a very, very good defense. Then the 3 seed, I'm going to have the Eagles bouncing back. They made some coaching staff trades. They went out for Saquon Barkley, which will help this team dramatically in the playoffs. And it would just gonna help them develop this run game around this amazing offensive line. They also did lose Jason and Fletcher Cox. That hurts a lot, but I think they'll be able to bounce back from what happened to them last year. The 4 seed in the AFC, the last divisional winner, I'm going to have to give to the Jets. The Jets team looks very complete. They rebuilt their offensive line protecting Aaron Rodgers, which I do like, Mike Williams for that deep ball threat, and their defense is a good unit. So I think this team gets the 4 seed. Now, for the 4 seed in the NFC, how about the Atlanta Falcons? You saw them making moves this year. Biggest one going on and getting Kirk Cousins. You saw in Atlanta how they were not able to pass the ball, and they have very good weapons. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. They will all be used out there, which they weren't before. A new head coach. This could be a very good team, and I'm predicting that it will. The number 5 seed, I have the Ravens. Now the Ravens, the hard part about the AFC North is that there's 4 teams that could beat any of them on any Sunday. So you have to predict that these teams will beat up on each other, even though if you put them in a different division, they would clearly win the division. But just since the talent of that division, you have to rank them down because they'll beat up on each other. Now, number 5, I have the Bucs. I think they're going to have a close game, and it's going to come down to the week 18 and between the Falcons and the Bucs, but I think the Falcons will squeak it through. But the Bucs re-signed Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, so they have that quarterback of what they had last year, and they really kept most of their guys. They didn't really lose anything, and they didn't get anyone big. Next up, the 6th seed, I'm going to have to go with my Buffalo Bills. Now, I know it was a disappointing offseason losing most of my guys, but I think Josh Allen will have a chip on his shoulder going into this playoff race to prove that Stephon Diggs was a holding back with locker room drama and all of that. Now, the 6th seed for the NFC, I'm going to have to go with the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams made it last year. They got into that amazing game in the wild card round with the Lions last game, just narrowly losing. But they haven't really lost anyone big. I mean, I know Aaron Donald retired, but you had to expect that he was going to go to retirement soon. I mean, there's not much left for him to accomplish in his NFL career besides winning an MVP, but the MVP will not go to anyone besides the quarterback. Now the 7th seed in the AFC, I'm going to have to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Like I mentioned with the Ravens, when you have a really good division, they're going to beat up on each other. They know their kryptonite, so they're going to have to lose. I'm not saying the Bengals are a bad team. I'm just saying when you have a talented division, this stuff is going to happen. But they still make it into the playoffs. Joe Burrow stays healthy. And now we are going for the NFC 7th seed. I'm going to give this one to the Dallas Cowboys. I know people are making fun of them for not going all in like Jerry Jones said, but they don't really have the cap to do it. I know they lost a bunch of key pieces, but I still think they'll be able to squeak into the playoffs, have the 7th seed in the NFC, maybe make some noise for themselves. We'll find out come this year into the playoffs. And we'll start with the AFC wildcard rounds. First matchup we have will be the Texans versus the Bengals. Now, I really like CJ Stroud and what this Houston team is doing, but Joe Burrow has more experience. He knows what he's doing going into a different environment, which he has done, beating teams like Kansas City. I mean, they could have had a three-peat if it wasn't for him. But now we have. So I think the Bengals will narrowly defeat the Texans in this game. Next up, Browns versus Bills. I have to go with the Bills. I might sound like I'm biased with this, but I think Josh Allen is going to have a huge chip on his shoulder going into the playoffs this year that can't be matched because he is being called a bad quarterback, Diggs drama. I think he's going to go out and try and prove everyone wrong that was saying this. And next up, we have the Jets versus the Ravens, and I have the Ravens winning this game, going on to the NFC wild card round. Is the Lions versus the Cowboys, and we saw this game, I believe, in Week 16, and it was a very good game, but the refs messed it up towards the end of it, and the Lions should have won it, but the Cowboys won, and now I think the Lions are going to roll right past them as the Cowboys barely got in. But I just don't think that's going to last for too long. And now we have the Eagles-Rams. I think the Eagles win this game with the addition of Saquon Barkley. I know that they lost Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, but I don't think that that's too major of a hit that they cannot recover from. They have the draft to recover. This is also pre-draft, by the way. Next up, I have the Falcons versus Buccaneers. I have the Buccaneers taking this. Baker Mayfield has something left to prove. And then for the AFC Divisional round, we have the Chiefs versus Bengals. This is going to be a great game, whoever wins it. And I'm just going to have to go with the Bengals. Joe Burrow is Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite. He knows what he has to do to beat him. And I hope he can just stop the three-peat at all cost. Next up, Ravens versus Bills. I'll say it. Lamar is not a good playoff quarterback. He's not a good quarterback when it comes to Buffalo January. It's just not going to work out well for him. We've seen it. He did not play well in the Baltimore game. Now talk about this. There might be snow if this happens. There might be rain. Josh Allen knows how to play in it better than Lamar does and in the playoffs. End of discussion. Next up, we have the 49ers versus Buccaneers. I'm going to have to give this to the 49ers. I think the 49ers are a very complete team. I mean, obviously getting the 1 seed. I just don't think Baker Mayfield has enough in him to go out and lead his team to victory over the 49ers. Next up, Eagles versus Lions. I'm going to have to go with the Lions on this one. Dan Campbell wants revenge at the 49ers, and that's what he's going to get. AFC Championship, Bengals versus Bills. Like I said this entire video, Josh Allen has a chip on his shoulder. I hope I don't jinx it, but the Bills are going to the Super Bowl for the 5th time, according to my 100% correct predictions. And now we have the Lions versus 49ers. I'm going to have to give this to another person I've been saying, Dan Campbell. He is not going to let his team lose to the team that eliminated him from the playoffs last year. It's simple. He's not going to let this happen. He's just not. Now we have our Super Bowl set. Buffalo Bills versus the Lions. I think this is a great game. Even if if this is the Super Bowl and the Bills lose this game, the Lions are the first team I'd want to win instead of the Bills to win the Super Bowl. But I think this will be a very close game. Like I said all video, Dan Campbell wants his revenge, and Josh Allen has something to prove. And this is why I think this game's going to go into overtime. And the final score is going to be 32-35 OT. Buffalo Bills are hosting the Lombardi. I know this is probably going to not happen because it just won't probably, but I hope it does. I mean, Josh Allen has to prove something. Now, if you like this form of predicting, I know I got it all right, so I know that's good, but I might react to it at the end of the next year. But if you like this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe even comment. I'll see you in my next video.